All right, everybody, we're going to go over the third of the readings for Module 4, Hybrid Masculinities. Okay, so I'm going to define hybrid masculinity via the authors. They define it as the selective incorporation of elements of identity typically associated with various marginalized or subordinated masculinities, and at times femininities into privileged men's gendered performances and identities. Okay, so this is like the example of that maybe male, that upper class masculine male maybe choosing to wear expensive clothes, but also chooses to wear his hair really long, where that might not fit the necessarily archetype of ideal male. They can get away with doing that by accommodating with other pieces of their hierarchical male archetype, and because they are white, in ways that maybe don't necessarily break down the inequalities that are faced by possibly a queer white male wearing his hair long, right? So it doesn't necessarily take away the inequalities of somebody else experiencing in that, but instead allows them space to do that because of their privilege and multitudes of categories, including male. So this is more style than substance, and rather than changing really what Lords calls the mythical norm, again, we're just allowing access to things based on the amount of privilege essentially that person may have. And it's appropriating and the borrowing parts of others. So in this part, I'm talking about maybe like in the long-haired or more feminized versions of being able to wear your hair and how that might impact how you do gender normally, or taking maybe terminology from another borrowed group, or possibly even taking maybe the music like rap or R&B as a white male, and really using it as and claiming it as theirs in ways that if a Black male might do it, there might be other consequences, or they might be labeled thugs or other things that in ways that white male doing it. So it's not necessarily breaking down this in that racial inequality, but it's allowing that prioritized group to be able to access things that other groups may utilize, or utilize maybe even as resistance to those structural inequalities in ways that others don't get to do so. It's typically explored by younger white males that have the ability to utilize and meld masculinity in ways that as they grow older they may not be able to do. It's distancing within performance while still aligning with the social powers. So you're still aligning with social powers and hierarchies, but you're not necessarily, but you're distancing maybe with them through performance. And some of these are intentional as ways of resistance that may not just break down quite the structures like they intended. So similarly to maybe some of the cons that we saw in the article, What It Means to Be a Gendered Me, right? Like, so some of this is males trying to embark in switching up maybe what that version of masculinity primary archetype looks like in ways that maybe didn't quite change that archetype as much as it did reinforce that they have the ability to do that, or reinforce that inequality existing for other people in ways that it doesn't exist for them while utilizing that thing. The debate within scholarship mostly consists of multiple ideas, but they're really trying to look at, do hybrid masculinities suggest a breakdown of inequalities, or do they just suggest the emergence of new ways of perpetuating the same systems of power? And really most of the research is showing that hybrid masculinities don't take away from the inequalities of other, but really just allow them to use that social power of male, or that social power of whiteness, in ways that allows them to stretch the idea of what masculinity is in certain spaces, or certain in certain ways, or limited periods of time in their life, because of the social power that comes with being young and being male and predominantly being white. So that's kind of what this is really getting at. This was a more challenging read. This is a more theoretical piece. It really digs into things in ways that a lot of our other pieces don't do so with language that they don't necessarily read. So if you have any questions or concerns as you're reading through this, you really just some of it's not making sense, please feel free, as always, to reach out, because again, this is a more they talk in a very let's say unforgiving way sometimes. So I want to make sure that it's accessible and that you guys can understand the main points. All right. As always, reach out if you need anything. Have a great week.